We'll say live up there. Perfect. Hello, everyone. Welcome for those watching on Facebook. This is the South Florida Tech Podcast, a weekly show where we bring you the awesome, innovative people building our South Florida tech community. Each week, we'll introduce you to one of the Sunshine State's top tech leaders, learn more about who they are, what they do, and have some fun conversation along the way. Our podcast is, of course, presented by the Palm Beach Tech Association, a nonprofit dedicated to building South Florida into a tech hub. And I'm your host, Joe Russo, President and CEO. With that, today we are really happy to announce a new presenting sponsor for our podcast, Emerge Americas. This is the very large event that takes place in Miami Beach every year. And each year, in an era where we have global enterprises, disruptive technology, and elite startups transforming our world, they're all highlighted at Emerge, this premier event connecting the Americas. This next one is it's scheduled for November. We're fingers crossed everything is going to move forward with that. They're expecting over 40 countries to be represented by the over 250 speakers and the countless organizations and companies involved. So thank you very much to Felice and Melissa over there for partnering, and we're looking forward to working with them here in the coming year. I'm really excited today about our guest, Angelo Bianco. This guy is a man about town in the city of Boca Raton. The guy knows everything and knows everyone. And he has got the distinction of being the leader of the Boca Raton Innovation Campus. A little bit about him. He's got a bachelor's degree in finance from George Washington University. He's got a JD from the Virginia School of Law. And he's also had almost 20 years plus of experience. He's even worked on the Rockefeller Center redevelopment in New York City. Now he's the managing partner of Crocker Partners, which owns Brick. That is the largest commercial landlord in the state of Florida and the 39th largest real estate landlord in the United States. With the Boca Raton Innovation Campus, they have one of the premier technology office locations in Florida, really in the United States, the original IBM research and development facility in Boca Raton. And they've done some really amazing things with it since they acquired that property back in 2018, trying to make a hub of everything tech and everything innovation for our South Florida community. Angelo, thank you so much for being on the podcast and for doing all the great things you do.
Thank you very much for having me and that very nice introduction. Too kind, your words were.
Well, I would love for you to just share a little bit about who you are and what you do. I mean, you do a lot in the community, in the world, but maybe you can give us a few of the highlights and talk a little bit about Brick as well.
Absolutely. Well, our company, Crocker Partners, was actually founded in Boca Raton, Florida, 35 years ago. And it gained notoriety of being a very high-end developer of Class A office space and mixed-use projects. And for locals, you might be familiar with Boca Center or Meisner Park, which are early developments that our firm did. And as of today, we actually own about 30% of all the office buildings in Boca Raton. And so that's about 3 million square feet. Part of our when we're not building new buildings, part of what we do is we take existing buildings that are broken in some way and we fix them up, called a value-add investor. And so we came across the Boca Raton Innovation Campus a few years ago, as you noted, and it was a very broken asset. And it was once the pinnacle of innovation and technology, as you mentioned. IBM created this, developed this in the late 60s. And it became the birthplace of the first personal computer, which was invented in Boca Raton, Florida. And just as an interesting note, Bill Gates flew here and struck the deal to sell his new operating system to IBM, and arguably the greatest business deal in the history of business, because he talked them into licensing his product instead of buying it. And of course, it made him the richest man in the world. As a side note, it might be interesting to note that IBM was so traditional at that time that they wouldn't take a meeting with him because he didn't have a tie on. So he had to go to a local store and buy a clip-on tie for the meeting. I think we've changed, we've gone a long way since then. But in addition to the first personal computer that was invented there, they invented the first smartphone. And it was really a hub of innovation. And that changed over time when IBM left, and it fell into disrepair. It became this big white elephant, the largest office building in the state of Florida at 1.7 million square feet, and which is about the same size as one of the old World Trade Towers, to put that into context. It was kind of abandoned, and because IBM built it to be hidden, because it was a center of technological innovation, they didn't really want to open it to the community. Many people didn't even know it was there. So our job was to buy this asset and reposition it. And what we decided to do was turn it into a hub for technological innovation for both for technology companies and life sciences. We did that because those are growing industries, and those are the types of jobs that we want to foster in our buildings and also our community. And so as a result, we looked at what we had and we figured, what could we become? And we kind of backed into the process. And we said, well, if we want to attract these companies, what can we do? So we need to make it attractive to their employees. So what do their employees find is attractive? And we're very good at stealing other ideas. It's the best way to succeed. So like, well, they like Google campuses and Apple campuses. We know that. So he said, great, let's build one. And that's what we've been in the process of doing. So in addition to working directly with companies in tech and trying to bring them over to our campus, we're investing about $100 million into the campus to turn it into a marquee mixed-use development, and it'll probably be the one, if not the only, campus of its type in the entire country. Amenity. Oh, I'm sorry, Joseph. I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. I just had myself on mute. I know you've spent a lot of years in real estate and in business, but this has got to be the most unique project by far you've ever done. Am I right?
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned earlier, working the redevelopment of Rockefeller Center in New York City was definitely one of those special projects as well. But in that position, I was a much younger man. So my role was as more of a team player. This is the first time I could be on a project of that scale, in which I'm one of the thought leaders in the project. So it's one of the most fulfilling projects I've ever had to work on. And it's the creativity that we can put, the fact that I can marshal a lot of resources around this. We're doing this in concert with the broader community, both business and civic and charitable. I don't know if you're familiar with all of the outreach programs we have, because this goes well beyond this project and well beyond Crocker Partners. This is going to impact our community deeply because of the scale of this. And we're trying to reach out so that in the southeastern United States, this becomes known as the tech and life sciences hub. And that takes a lot of us to do that. There are a lot of interests, like your organization as well, yeah. FAU, the city of Boca Raton, Palm Beach County, state of Florida. We're working with all of these people. And we're not just we're trying to make this a multifaceted approach to offering or creating an environment that would be attractive to all types of people, not just one particular sex. So it's going to be focused more on STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics as the acronym, type of interested parties over time, tenants. And that's why we're going to be integrating our own maker lab, STEAM lab, in the project, which will have laser cutters, 3D printers, maker stations, so that people could prototype new ideas and collaborate in there. We're going to have in there a programming classroom so people could learn new languages. We can offer them to the community because it's going to be open to the broader community. We'll be having Boca Raton's first food hall with 7 different restaurants, which will also be open to the public. We're going to have 2 full barista coffee shops, and they will be on the scale that you would see in any commercial development like a Starbucks, but we have our own spin to them. One of them is called Java, because it's a nickname for coffee, but also the computer programming language. And
that's a very punny one. I like that.
Well, we're doing it all over the place. The food hall is called Bite. The Bite, Byte, because that's where they invented the personal computer.
You know, if you need a consultant on food puns, like just give me a ring. I come up with those. Usually, I just get eye rolls, but you know, if you put
Oh,
it on a sign,
well, I'm a father of 3 children, so their dad jokes are bound in this entire place. Well, the other coffee shop is because the architect who designed the center for IBM, his name is Marcel Breuer. He's a very famous brutalist architect. So we're calling the other coffee shop Marcel's Brewers because
mm,
it's a play on his name. So we're doing a lot of that, and we're trying to really pay respect and homage to the history that happened there. So in addition to little things like the names, but we're putting a big patio, outdoor seating area around this the lake that we have. And the patio will be made to the exact replica of the very first keyboard for the IBM PC. And all the keys will be etched there. And the Control-Alt-Delete sequence, which was invented here in Boca Raton, will actually be bronzed in there to show that that's here. So
that's
we're doing a lot of cool stuff, and we're trying to incorporate the sciences, but also the arts.
yeah,
So we're having a history of tech museum that we're putting in there to showcase all that stuff on tech.
that's awesome.
But we're also putting in art museums and galleries inside and outside. So we're working with curators in the Boca Museum and local artistic foundations, FAU, Lynn University. And we're going to bring in all that art because we're such a big campus, so we can have different museums all over the place. And for children all the way through professional artists. And so we're trying to foster an area of creativity, and I'm stealing all this from Steve Jobs, by the way. I didn't invent any of this. He told us
Yeah.
technology and design wins, right? So I can't do either, sadly. Although
Oh,
I
come on.
say to myself that I like technology, but I'm not, I'm a neophyte. I do it out of enjoyment. But I want to create the environment, the crucible for these geniuses to come together and create. And that's why I want the art and the science together. And we're going to do that. We're trying to, we have the facilities. We're putting in there a very large ballroom, which will be designed to be a TEDx type convention center, seating 1,000 people. So we like to have obviously presentations there, stream them, get the community to come in. We are having a wellness center that's taken on even more importance because of the last few months. And we are hiring a director of environmental health that will be based in Brick, who will work on trying to make not just Brick, but our entire 11 million square foot portfolio as safe as we can be in these times and going forward. Just because right now our entire company is focused on reducing transmissions and keeping things clean and being very focused on that, and cleaning protocols, etc. But we want to make sure we never forget that. So we're going to hire some of those full-time jobs to do that.
And just to highlight a few of the folks you have in there, I mean, you have Kroger Digital, Modernizing Medicine, TransUnion, a slew of other companies that have some next generation talent doing some pretty amazing things. So, making sure you're taking that next generation approach, I'm sure is well received by these guys.
Well, that's what we're doing this. We're doing this because when they choose to come to the Boca Raton Innovation Campus, or BRIC, I don't know if we defined it before, but they choose to come into our campus, it's like it's not just a space. It's coming in there, and it's an environment that we've created so that their people enjoy going to work there. In addition to all of the food hall, we're putting in 2 small grocery stores. They're called Bits, by the way, BITS, instead of Bites. And we're doing that so that if you had on your way home and your spouse or whomever calls you up and says, we need some milk or some cereal for the morning, you just run downstairs and grab that. We're putting in conveniences that concierge level services, so you can drop your dry cleaning, your laundry off when you come to the office. Even today, if your car is in the lot, you can have gas literally pumped into your car while you're working. We're putting in charging stations. Because we have a 10 megawatt generator there, we're going to be the only place in Florida that'll have fully backed up electrical charging stations on site. The building's also hurricane resistant. So it becomes a great place for redundancy and for people to know that they can have an environment to be creative, secure, and safe.
Gotcha. I mean, you keep on saying all these things, and these are all brilliant things, but it's always like, what's next? You keep on doing so many neat things, but that said, I know you're working on some virtual side of Brick right now too. Maybe you can dive into that for a second and then let us know what that's about.
When you say the virtual, are you talking about our virtual tours on
Like
campus?
virtual tours, virtual programs. Yep.
Yes. Well, one of the things, because we're going to be having multiple museums throughout the project, and it's open to the public, we're trying to find ways to allow people to enjoy this campus. It's 130 acres, which is quite large. The building itself has literally miles of hallways because it's so large. So we're designing an application which will allow people to take guided tours, and using the accelerometer and the compass design in your iPhone or your Android phone will allow you, it will speak to you just like a tour guide as you walk around, and say, if you hold it in front of you, you're looking at a painting by X and it depicts this. Or you'll flip through and say, I want to go see the very first prototype of the first IBM PC, which will also be on site. And you hit that, and it will guide you on how to walk there. So we want to use technology to make people's experience there better. But what we're trying to do is keep it tactile, experiential, not a faux experience. So it helps guide you around the facility, but it does not replace the facility.
Yeah. So I want to digress a little bit from Brick for a second, because and for those that are interested, you can go to work@bric.com, and I'll drop that reference in a little later on too. But there's a lot of really cool things going on there. But I'd love to talk about you for a little bit. I mean, I feel like I've seen you around so many different places, and you're as funny of a guy as I am, as I'd like to think. You're really good at dad jokes, but if stand-up comedy was the thing, I don't know if I could do it so much. But you're a dad, you're a guy about town, but talk about what it's like now. I mean, you've been at home with 2 months with 3 kids. You're obviously spending a lot of time around the house. What's your work life been like these last couple of weeks?
Well, I'm very, very fortunate to begin with, because I have a couple things. I have 3 children. The 2 oldest, they just turned 11, and they're self-sufficient. And my daughter, she has a tutor who is still able to work with her. And so we have a great situation where my children are taken care of during the day, which allows myself and my wife as a school teacher to do our jobs. And then I have the added benefit of having one of the greatest co-working teams that any company would have. The people at Crocker Partners have excelled during this crisis. My colleagues have proven that there is no challenge too daunting for them to conquer. And I'm extraordinarily proud and humbled by their incredible success. And so I've been dealing with a lot of changes, as you can imagine, with 11 million square feet, which was designed to be very open and real estate, to now deal with trying to keep it safe and virus-free is a challenge. But we've been able to keep our entire portfolio running continuously since this happened. And we've done so by removing all non-essential personnel off site and working remotely. And non-essential means you don't literally physically need to be on the property, but when you run properties, you have to actually turn on things and shut doors and lock them. So I do have to have personnel on site. We can't be all telecommuting. And so because we have a lot of necessary critical industries in our buildings, it was critical for us to do so. So we split up our engineers into 2 groups, Group A and Group B, and they went work 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off to avoid cross-contamination, because there's a 2-week hibernation period. We're very, very lucky to say, as of today, we've had no Crocker employee or immediate family member who has tested positive for COVID. And so, we've done, my team's done a fantastic job to date.
Well, I think you're probably in a position where you guys are in so much contact with so many people that's a pretty good thing to say. And then obviously you're looking forward past this, you're going to be in a really prime position to keep things moving forward. But going back to, I think one of my question is, with your three kids, how would you describe, or excuse me, how would they describe what you do?
Well, it's a very good question, because I think that my daughter calls me the principal at my job, because that's what her frame of reference. So it's very difficult when you have young children for them to have a frame of reference to understand what I do. In that it's simple in a sense, being I'm a commercial landlord. But it's quite a boring job to most people, as you can imagine. Specifically, if you're a 7 to 10-year-old, it's even more boring, as you can imagine. So I think, and I hope what they think I do is I play with them in the pool and I read to them bedtime stories. That's really, at this stage, what I'm most want to be known for.
Yeah, that's the real job.
Right, and that I love doing. I love being a dad. I'm very, very fortunate. I have a beautiful wife and family, and it's funny, even though we've been cooped up together for several months now, it's turned out way better than I thought. I thought there'd be a lot more cabin fever and maybe a little frustration, but it hasn't. It's actually turned out to be very good for the family.
Yeah. And going to I have a fun note down here that you're building your own 8-bit computer, and that part of that, every year you're trying to work on new hobbies, some of which have included electronics and 3D printers and stuff like that. But how has it come that you're now building your own computer and also owning the building the computer was invented in? There's a little comparison there that's really fun for me to think about.
Well, maybe I think the buying the building may have pushed me more into this direction, because I've been spending a lot of time thinking about the history of computing, and when and IBM and guys like Pete Martinez and the entire IBM team, they've been fantastic to talk to about the background and history. Dr. Dave, who invented the Control-Alt-Delete, I get to meet him. It's the only autographed picture I have in my entire office is with me and the guy who invented Control-Alt-Delete, which I'm very proud of. I'm a geek, so whatever. That's who I am. But so I was thinking about this and just the scope of what they put together, and I was looking at all of their early prototypes, and I realized I don't know any of this. Like, I'm pretty computer savvy and I can program and high level programs, but I didn't know assembly language or binary or exactly how a computer works. So I wanted to find out. And so I started doing some research. Now, obviously, for me, going to an earlier technology is actually easier, because it's simpler to get my arms around a 6052 processor than it's going to be the most modern Intel chip made. And I started doing this, and there's a great, by the way, I'll do a shout out to a guy named Ben Eder, who has done a series of videos, possibly one of the best instructors or teachers I've ever seen on any subject. The way he teaches electronics and computers is masterful. So I started watching his YouTube videos and got into it. And now I'm just diving straight in. I'm building the computer. I'm getting into oscilloscope usage. Doing a bunch of cool things I never thought I'd be doing.
Well, you're a lot better man than me to be trying that one out. I'd probably break the thing and have it engulf in flames at this point. But I got in trouble for messing with computers back in school. I know Control-Alt-Delete well, because that's how I would have to fix them after I crashed the darn thing with too many tabs open. And here I am today with probably 50 tabs open in my computer right now. But that's pretty neat. I would love to see what that looks like at the end of the day. I don't know if you plan on posting that online or anything, but that's going to be a fun story.
Well, I'll definitely show you. It's going to be like a bunch of breadboards with a bunch of jumper cables and some integrated circuits. But I'll show it to you when I'm finished.
Well, I would love to kind of get your thoughts. I mean, we talked about Brett, talked about you, but real estate in general right now. I mean, when I think of real estate experts, you're obviously up at the top, but we're at this odd time where we don't know what real estate's going to become in the next year or so, with a lot of people staying home and not going to the office as much, and people putting a lot of home sales and rentals on hold. And I'm curious to get your thoughts on what the real estate market in South Florida is really going to be like over the next year or two.
Well, it's the question of the day in my industry, is trying to predict the future, because you want to make sure that you are prepared for it or leading it, if the case may be. And every time there's a crisis, whatever crisis it is, during the middle of the crisis or coming out of it, there are grand pronouncements made about how the world's going to change going forward. And it never happens to that degree, because we always revert to the mean in anything in life. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be changes. There will be changes. For instance, I believe going forward, more people will work from home than previously worked from home. I don't believe it's going to have to do anything to do with fears of more future pandemics, which appear to be a 1 in 102 year event. But it's going to be because people who wanted to work from home before, but whose managers or bosses were reluctant to let them do so, out of fear of not knowing that they would be productive, now know they can do it. We've proven one thing: we can work from home. Many people here. It's just not as pleasant for many people as it is in the office. Also, office company culture and office culture, it'd be extraordinarily difficult, if not impossible, to manufacture virtually. Being able to bring on new hires and to interact is going to be something that we do together. We're ultimately evolved as humans over millions of years. We can't change that over weeks or months. It's not going to be that way. We need to work together, just who we are. So I think that there will be some more working at home. I think there will also be a reconfiguration of office space. This is what I know best. That's what I'm talking about, office space. That would be adding some more space per employee. So it could be a little bit. They balance each other out. And so I don't know if there's going to be big changes in that regard. I do believe that from an operational standpoint, we are going to be much more health conscious and have a much more of a disinfectant approach to how we run our business. And I think that for the foreseeable future is what we'll be looking at. And there may be some changes. I think one thing that we're already doing, we have a multifamily rental project we're developing for Fort Lauderdale. And we've already started redesigning, because it's not going up yet. We're just doing the designs. We're redesigning it so that on each floor in the project, we have offices on the floor. So small offices, but like a bunch of them. So if you happen to rent one of those units, you can rent a small home office there as well to work out of. Because generally speaking, your apartment's a little too small for that. So we're trying to be adaptive and give people what they want in a lot of these respects. And I do think that there will be an increase in the working at home, and we'll fulfill that. Now, regarding retail, retail's tough because it keeps getting hit from all. Clearly, the online and Amazon impact has been significant. And the one resilient part of it, restaurants, has been crushed because of the quarantine. So it's going to take a while to fix retail, and some of the retail projects will be changed to other uses. And then I guess finally, hotels or hospitality have also been hurt. And I think that there could be a lingering problem for hotels, because the Zoom world we're all part of today works. We know that. So not that I'm saying you're not going to travel again, but maybe 1 out of every 10 trips you'll decide to do by Zoom instead of in person. And that would change the travel industry or reduce it by 10%.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what a lot of people are just kind of worried about or maybe curious about is, what that becomes, that just general uncertainty, until we're kind of over the hill here, so to say. There's just that, what's this going to be? And hopefully, we all get back to normal very shortly, and we can start taking part in more of the interpersonal things that we really drive us. One of the things I think we were really looking forward to was the career expo that we were going to do with you guys at Brick, that we did virtually and was very successful, but would have been great to work with you guys on in person there. So I'm looking forward to more of those collaborations, more getting just getting back to having the opportunity to share a beer with somebody in person. That would be a great opportunity for a conversation like this. With that, I know we're at about time, but curious if you have any last words or any calls to action to leave us with.
Well, my only last words are that I would like everybody to be positive where we are. We've done, as a community, I think we've all done an excellent job getting through this time. And I hope that you join us at Brick for the future, because the future will be there.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to coming there again and hopefully doing some big things with you guys. Thank you so much, Angelo. Want to give a quick shout out to our producing sponsor, Media Ops, which is also in Boca Raton. They're the premier global media platform for technical communities like DevOps.com, Security Boulevard, and Container Journal. They work with us to actually produce our podcast, so thank you to them. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about Palm Beach Tech and would love to get involved, we'd love to have you go to palmbeachtech.org. Check out some of the things we do and get more engaged with us. We have memberships for companies and individuals if you're so inclined there as well. But most importantly, I'd love to have conversations about technology and history and dad jokes. So thank you very much, Angelo, for being a part of the conversation today. And I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Joe. Take care.
Yeah.